Expert Dojo. It is great to have you all back. I'm sorry we're a few minutes late this morning, but we're going to put together a great show. And we're going to focus on a bunch of stuff. We're going to look at how you build up your fame. And I want to talk every single time we go through this show, it's about covering two aspects. The first one is what tips can you learn that will help you grow faster this week? Just very clear and simple and easy. And then the second is a discussion either with an entrepreneur who we've invested in or a growth hacker that we really love that's either going to go deeper into that topic or bring up a topic of their own. But by the end of 40 minutes, you should walk out the other side with something that you can do, which is absolutely actionable for yourself. So on this beautiful Monday morning here in California, as we're coming towards the holiday period, which means different things for different people, but for everybody, it kind of means a slowdown. What do I see the opportunity as? It is not to slow down. I promise you that. It is to take advantage of the fact that other people are slowing down. Now, next week, I do actually want to go into targets and how you set targets for next year and how you make sure that 2025 is going to be like a killer year that you've always needed it to be, especially in this difficult time. But what I also want to do is this week, I want to focus it entirely on building your fame. And as most of you know who've been around the dojo for a while, and you know that we look at this thing in kind of two ways. The first way is that you have your Viking period at the beginning, and the Viking period is really just about you got to find your growth loop, you got to find your brand, you got to find your personal brand, you got to get your product perfect. Like that's really what that Viking period is like. Think about the Vikings that just get in their ship, they cross the ocean, they terrify the life out of everybody across the ocean through their brand and through their product and through their aggressive outreach, and everybody runs away. And that's how they won so many battles without even fighting a battle. But then a period comes when you have to move beyond that. You've worked out your product fit, you've worked out your brand, you've worked out the other things. Now you need to get into a stage where you can build systems to springboard from. Interestingly, Expert Dojo are in that exact position right now. We've been Vikings for a couple of years, and now we want to expand that out, and we want to become the greatest gladiators the world has ever seen. You should want to do the same thing. Now, what kind of things do you have in gladiators? Well, you have your investment, which you need to be able to get through, and you need to make that sure that works into something better. You need to build up your influence. You need to build up your domain dominance. And I want to talk a little bit about those two things and where they intersect today, especially as we're ending up 2024 and going into 2025, so that you have a place that you know that like that dominance is going to mean something. And so why do you want to get famous or bring in famous people or have famous people attracted to you? Why do you want any of those things to be happening? Well, you want to make sure that by doing that, you have an ability to reduce your cost of acquisition. Now, I will ask just our producers here to please make me host and to please let Siddhant in about 5 minutes or so when I get to the end of this. But let me just cover this one point first. Actually, let's Siddhant in whenever you can put him in. But let me cover this one point first. Like on building your fame and building your stuff, every single thing that you do for your company is in servitude of your company. So if you're bringing in an influencer, you're doing it for the company. If you are spending time getting well known yourself, you're doing it for your company. So you always have to make sure that you are not confusing the fact that you are the one person who feels really good about what's happening, but your company's not benefiting from it, because it's very, very easy for that to happen. And so you do that by making sure that you're focusing on cost of return on all of the activities that you're doing. So when I talk about getting yourself famous or building your domain domination, I'm talking about like, how do you become Google? But sooner rather than later. We know that time kills everything. We know that if Google have the time that Google have, then they will become Google. But how about if we can become Google? How about if we can become Airbnb? How about if we can become Uber a year quicker, 2 years quicker, 3 years quicker? How do we build our domain domination using, I call it fame, to be able to do that? How do we do that in a way that folks will get to know us quicker? And then when they're making decisions about buying our product, that decision becomes a really easy thing to be able to do. So How do you do that? Well, it's really easy. You just make sure that you focus on building that domain domination, that domain authority, the domain awareness from the first day. Well, what are ways that you could do that? And I want to start with like something that we decided that we were going to do for 2025. We decided we were going to bring two things out, which we're going to build our domain domination. Number one, and normally, by the way, if you're really nailing this and you're really focused on it, to build that domain dominance, you need to do one major activity per month. No, sorry, per quarter. Why do I say one per quarter? Because it's a major activity. It's not a minor activity. It's something very huge that you might have been preparing for before, but it's something that you're going to put in place. So what are we going to do? Well, in quarter one, we're going to release the book, and it's going to be the Dojo book, and it's going to be the Dojo book about how you build your unicorn. That on its own is a major undertaking, but it means that rather than speaking here or speaking on a stage, this book speaks for us. In our case, this book became really important. What's the other thing that we're planning on doing? We're planning on putting together a TV show, and the TV show would be surrounded around our entrepreneurs. Again, this is a huge undertaking, but assuming that it hits the success that we expect it to hit, it's going to give us an outcome that we could have only dreamed of before. And so that puts us into like a really, really strong place on actually being able to build out the dojo during the year. What's the other thing we're doing? We're going to be arranging a huge conference in conjunction with one of the governments in one of the countries over in Europe, which I'm like beyond excited for. And then we'll then spend our time then expanding throughout the regions using these tools as ways to be able to build a really strong relationship with the folks that we want to be our consumers. Now, for us, consumers are different than for you. For you, your consumer might be that you're selling a SaaS platform to somebody in your space. For us, it's about we want entrepreneurs all over the world to look at Expert Dojo differently than how they look at any kind of venture capitalist, right? And so when they look at Expert Dojo, they're going to say, we want to be an Expert Dojo rather than anyone else because we keep hearing their name. And because of that, we keep seeing them and we keep seeing them doing really cool things. And because of that, we know that we have a better chance of success with Expert Dojo. So we will take their investment money, right? So for us, that's our reason why. Now you may look, there are just three areas of building your domain domination through building your fame, right? But there may be a bunch of other areas as well, whereby you look yourself. We have one of our companies that we were speaking with last week, and our whole focus this week is increasing their domain dominance by building thought leadership sessions. Now, in this company's particular case, they have some of the top data people in the world who are their customers and who are their friends. And because they have the top data people in the world, they're in a fantastic place to be able to arrange local domain dominance thought leadership events. Now, a local event might be 10 large companies coming to that event. But imagine if you knew that the head of data in Google was there, or the head of data in Dun & Bradstreet was there, or the head of data in Moody's was there. You're going to go there much more than you would have gone there if it had just been the CEO of the company, which is just a startup company, right? So you're climbing on the shoulders of people that are greater for yourself. I can't emphasize this enough. This is like the biggest thing that you can do to springboard your startup from being in the treadmill of Google ads or I was going to say Yahoo ads. There's no Yahoo ads anymore. Google ads are paid marketing or paid social. Like it's a grind and everybody else is doing it. So I want you to go from here to here without having to go through the grind. Who else are really good people at doing this? Gary Vaynerchuk is exceptional at doing this. Love Gary. He's a beast when it comes to this. Also, and think about what Gary Vaynerchuk did, actually. I mean, we could talk about Richard Branson, Mark Cuban as well. But Gary Vaynerchuk is one of my favorites because he was just a wine guy. That's all. His dad had a wine shop. He used to blog about the wine. YouTube came on board online. It became like a hot new channel to go after. It was super early in that time. And he started building up a fan base because he started talking about wine in a different way than anybody else. And so that was powerful for his people, because he would talk about peeing into a glass and then swirling it around like a phenomenal Chardonnay. And people liked it. They thought it was funny. And he was speaking in a different voice than other people out there who maybe were talking about a nose of a wine, and leaving us mere mortals feeling that we were stupid. Gary didn't do that. Gary brought us in and made us a part of what he was doing. So very, very, very important to be able to make sure that like you're able to break through and actually be able to build the domain dominance. Look at him now. If Gary Vaynerchuk wanted to start a chicken farm, it would be one of the most successful chicken farms in the world. That's why what he has is really, really, really important. Now, let's go deeper. I want to look at other organizations as well. Brex. If anybody of you have followed, I always speak about liquid debt, so I'm not going to talk about liquid debt. That's just easy, right? But Brex was even more brilliant because they were building out a neobank. There have been thousands of neobanks that have come out all over the world. They have virtually all failed. And so why have they failed? They failed because who the hell wants another neobank in the world? But what Brex did was they understood that a neobank on its own was worth nothing. And so as a neobank on its own, you had to make sure that you built up some kind of credibility outside. That credibility is built by going through domain dominance, domain authority, and then domain awareness, domain dominance, and then domain authority. So they built up their domain awareness by putting billboards all around San Francisco. They started by going to the original founders of PayPal. And there are great stories about how they pretended they were looking for a job, and then they brought in 2 or 3 of the original people. That gave them credibility. Once they had credibility, they raised money. Once they raised money, they created these billboards all around San Francisco, but they put them outside the VC's offices. And so because they put them outside the VC offices, the VCs thought that they were really expanding and getting very strong. So what did they do? They put more money into Brex. And this is the key of building your domain domination. Everybody wants to be around people who are winning. Nobody wants to be around people who are desperate. So which founder do you want to be? Do you want to be the founder that like pitches to 4, 5, 6 investors a day begging for money? Or do you want to be the founder who's out there building your domain dominance? And that's why on this particular program, I didn't want to do a long one this morning, especially since our producers seem to be struggling with getting anybody else in. Oh my God, they brought you in. Wonderful, Siddhant.
Hey, hi.
Man, so they probably kept you out there for like forever. But it's good to have you on, and it's good to have you in, and they worked it out. So I'm appreciative. I'm appreciative of that little thing. And so I don't know if you heard did you catch that piece I was talking about?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me here.
Of course. You're my guy. You're my guy. You're gonna make us all rich. You're gonna make us rich and wealthy, and I like that. And so just to pull this all into like a big circle. So for me, domain dominance is everything. The way to get to domain dominance is to be able to do extraordinary events on a semi-regular basis. For some people like Brex, it was rinse and repeat with billboards all around San Francisco. For other folks like us, it's like books, and it's doing TV shows. For folks like the SaaS company that I just spoke about, it's about creating thought leadership events that you can bring people into your world, and you can get those people really engaged, actually seeing you as someone that they want to be around all the time. So I think all of these things are great ways to be able to do it. My message just at the start of this stream today to everybody watching is make sure that you're putting yourself in a place that you're building your domain dominance in 2025. So, Siddhant, it's good to have you on the stream. It's good to have you on the show. This is all about folks watching this are investors and they are founders. And so everything is just really about tips on how to grow. Investors get to see you, founders get to learn from you and what you're doing. Can you just obviously you are a fine invested company of Expert Dojo, but can you just talk a little bit about kind of what you do, what the company does, and a little bit about the genesis of like your belief around growth?
So, hi, I'm Siddhant, founder of Quodex.AI. We are an AI-powered API testing and documentation platform. It's like hiring a QA engineer, but not physically, virtually, like an AI agent, which would exactly work like you hire someone, just that you don't have to pay that much amount which you are paying to someone. So that's what we do. I think with the democratization of AI, things are going to be heavily dependent on AI. A lot of code, in fact, right now as well, a lot of code, even 20-25%, are being written by AI. And once you have LLMs writing the code, you need a complete out of the box, which is not at all dependent on your system to test those codes. Because if the same LLM is writing the code and testing it out, it doesn't make sense. So then at that point of time, you need a platform like Codex.AI, which is not at all dependent on your system, which is completely out of the box, which understand your product docs, understand your support tickets, understand how developers are working in your companies, and then it formulates a test plan, it writes test scenario, execute them without any manual intervention. So, and we all know developers, they don't like testing it out, and it's a standard report that 25% of engineering expense, that is just waste, that goes to testing, that is a non-revenue generated code. So we are going to save that. In fact, a couple of companies that is using Codex.ai, they have been able to achieve from 5 days shipping cycle to 2 days or 1.5 days shipping cycle.
Like that. And so if you think about like how you've grown the platform, for me, I loved the innovative way that you were approaching the market. That's what made it like a very easy investor decision. But if you talk about like yourselves on how you've grown and how you got started to build trust, because I think when we're looking at growth hacking, I like to break this part of the show down a little bit onto the individual things that you did to be able to drive your revenue growth. Can you speak a little bit about like how did you get the developers to trust you at the beginning?
Absolutely. So the initial trust was, of course, coming from the founders and core teams' reputation. The first couple of customers were just from my known networks. I have 12 years of engineering experience building B2B tech SaaS, and they were just trusting me, and they trusted my problem solving skills. So they were very eager to try it out. Once you have couple of initial customers, it's your job as a founder to make sure that you do everything in your capacity to make sure they go happy from you. They receive everything that they are expecting from your company or your product. So that's what we did. We just focused on couple of customers in the starting, and once they were satisfied, then there was a network effect as well. One happy customer would always talk about to other founders, friends, and all that. Through that, we started expanding a bit. Now I
I
would
want
love.
to I want to just like stop you on that point there, right? So the first stage is first, by the way, the first stage is build something that you know something about. Okay. Too many people like read an article in a magazine and decide that they're going to be the next great innovators. Like you have that 10,000 hour rule is so important. Like be an expert in the area that you're developing because otherwise or have somebody with you who's an expert because otherwise you'll just make all of the mistakes that look obvious, but they're not, but they are obvious, but other people didn't do it because they know the business better. So I love that. Number two, build trust with the closest community and network around you. It's not really about how much money they pay at this stage, it's about how much you transform their lives. Then, number three, you focus everything on making sure that they have the greatest experience that they could possibly have.
Very
And
true.
then you watch the dollars roll in because at that stage, once that happens, they're going to tell their friends, right? And so, how did that happen? Then, when you got past one, two, and three, you had provided great product, you had proven great product, they really liked it. They were starting to then share with other people. How did you maximize on top of that?
So we are still very early, but what we did, so in the starting, we were heavily focused on giving the support. So instead, if I tell you exact number, first 20 or 25 actual serious customers which we had, we literally created a Slack group with all of their core stakeholders who were working on the platform, and I made sure that each of their replies were taken care of, and we are not ignoring or giving 24-hour support channel. We were instantaneously replying to their support tickets. So that's how we build trust. That's how we try to make sure that they get what they are trying to from the product. And once that was done, then it was not a bad not so tough, because it was, we knew what problem someone would face if they want to automate their whole suite with Codex.AI. And that way we keep on expanding our product documentation, onboarding documentations, onboarding steps, and eventually the support ticket and the help, or the manual help that is required, that gets less and less as the time flies.
Yeah, who did you have working on the Slack channel? I love that as a specific action for people to work with. If you have your first customers, all founders out there, keep them in a place where you can be watching, like, in the moment, exactly what's happening with these people, rather than relying on somebody else picking up emails while you're driving business. You got to do both, because if you're not all over both, you can't create the beautiful, lovable product that you want to. But who are the principal people watching that Slack channel?
For us, from our side or from the customer side?
From your side?
So it was me and my co-founder Shreya, and
Yeah.
there is one core engineering guy who is engineering manager. He was on top of things.
Yeah, that's my point. It's not, you can't outsource this part at the beginning. At the beginning, you have to be right there in the middle. And what kind of things did you find out? And how did you find that they were reacting to the fact that you were the one responding to them, not other people?
So with us, there is a bit different than how the other companies work. So we are a developer tools. For us, the person who is taking the decision of buying a product and the person who is actually using it is very, very different. Our actual users are developers, QA managers, engineering managers, but the decision is always taken by CTO or CEO. So
Yeah.
when developers, they got to know that okay, we are super responsive, respond within an hour or sometimes within 10-20 minutes, and we fix the bug as soon as possible, because bugs will always be there in the system, but we fix it within 5, 10, 20 minutes. They were quite happy, and they were not hesitating in giving more and more feedbacks and more bugs. And as a startup or as a very initial company, that's what you need. You don't need money, you don't need customers, you just need feedback, fast iterating feedbacks.
I wish Lean Startup would change their name to Learn Startup, because that's what it is, right? Because when you say it's lean or minimum viable product, what you're really saying to people is, look, we're going to give you garbage and let's see where we go. But if you say Learn Startup, it's focused on learning every single minute and every day in such a real time way that you're just building better and better and better and better. I really like how you approach this, because it allowed you to really iterate on the speed of building out a lovable product just quicker and quicker and quicker. Truly phenomenal. And then, so I'm going to jump away to another place for a second, and then I want to come back, because you are an expert in AI, team are as well. That's what you're building your APIs around. And the testing that companies have will allow them to be able to build better themselves. How do you see AI playing a role in growth, specifically for startups going forward?
So I think I see AI as a tool or as an assistant. Let's say you have a chief of staff or a product manager. I see AI as an assistant. If I have to decide what exactly I have to do. Once I decide that, then I just let outsource it to AI. Or when before pre-AI era, I would not have enough data to decide. I cannot go through all the data streams, all the HubSpot messages, LinkedIn messages, and figure out what is working, what is not working. That has been solved very fastly with AI. Now you have dashboard where you can just see what's working, what's not working. You can iterate faster, but at the end of the day, it's you who is going to run the company. It's not AI who is going to run the company. So as a founder, you have to decide which direction, which traction, which trend you have to start your experiments with.
I agree. Any thoughts, tips on, like, how an early stage startup should approach integrating AI at this stage? Like, where should they start?
I think there are a couple of areas which is completely automated in terms of AI. One I think is the testing. We internally we do not have any QA in our team. The whole product is being tested by Codex.AI. So we have just a separate account which works on production and staging of Codex.AI and test it out completely. The other area I can think of is SDR, where the pipeline building and everything that can be completely automated with AI. In fact, I will tell you in some time how we did that. In fact, we are in process of completely automating that. So that is one. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, whoops, I'm sorry. When you talk about SDRs, you mean sales development resources or something
Yeah,
else?
who builds the pipeline, do the outreach, LinkedIn outreach, email outreach, phone outreach, social media trackings. All this can be completely automated with AI. You don't need any human intervention.
Wow. And so you're talking about like outreach. So when I think about sales development resources, I'm thinking about both outbound and inbound. Maybe give us some examples as to how that could be automated, because that would
So,
be highly interesting for folks, because that outbound piece of actually trying to be able to find new customers when the fact you only have one voice to do it yourself is huge.
so I will tell you our example, what we have done in terms of inbound and outbound. So we have installed this factors.ai on our web page, codex.ai. So anyone who is coming on codex.ai, be it the blog, be it the landing page, pricing, anywhere, we would get to know the company, LinkedIn URLs and everything about that person who is coming on the platform. Then that goes into our database. Our data analyzes that and then starts the campaign. It adds that particular company, all the senior manager, let's say for our ICPs, engineering manager and above. So we add all those person in that company to our campaign, and that automatically LinkedIn, with LinkedIn outreach, that automatically messages, connection requests, follow up messages keeps on start happening. You don't need to do anything at all. The only thing which we need to do, if someone replies, we just go ahead manually and physically we reply instead of letting AI replies.
You know, it makes me think there's going to be two worlds going forward, and those worlds are going to diverge more and more, right? It's the people who are just trying really, really, really hard. And then it's the people that are like building incredible AI based systems that are being supported by humans to make sure that the customer journey isn't lost. How do you see that growing? And where do you see Codex actually fitting in the middle of that?
So the see, if someone is using, let's say for us, the way we are using this inbound process and optimization and calling them or adding them to our pipeline, if we would have hired someone, we would have to hire at least 2 to 3 SDRs to do that. It would be have been a mental energy to manage those and then keep on doing OKRs, KPIs, follow everything. If they are working well, fire them, learn them. A lot of things to be handled if you are hiring a physical person. But with AI, everything is pretty much straightforward. You just go ahead, you set up everything, and you will get a dashboard. At the end of the day, it gives me that okay, how many people come on our website and how many we were able to talk to. So all the retentions and everything are is there straightforward. So I think if the company is able to optimize, see I see building a startup is just as a simple business. You have to optimize your cash flows. You just have to spend less, earn more. And if you are able to optimize your spend by, let's say, using the AI instead of hiring physical workforce, that is a positive advantage you have right from the first day.
It's just about return on investment. And so, for all startups that are listening to this, just look at this and say to yourself, look, what parts of my systems can I add AI into and automation into? What efficiencies can I build in there? And what does it look like? Because otherwise, you may be at a huge disadvantage, no longer just to Silicon Valley elite that are bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars, but to very savvy tech based startups that are actually really smart at being able to maximize resources for what's actually being able to come through. Siddhant, talk to us about some of the other things that you've done, like good growth hacks to be able to drive your business forward. Everything from traveling to other places, I know you went to San Francisco and a few other places as well, to like messaging that you put together for your startups, to internally in the team itself.
So two things I would love to talk about. In fact, one of that thing we discussed in our last sync up call. So attending event is a must to have in the initial days. The kind of people you talk to, I have literally met accidentally a huge number of people who are very very important right now for Codex.ai, just because I was attending an event or was out or was going to a social event or something like that. So I think that is a must to have for initial founders. The second one good hacks which we are currently working on is doing the outreach with AI. So we have built an internal system which basically tracks all the social media starting with Twitter and Reddit, and it tracks anywhere if someone is talking about API automation testing. It let us know that okay, this guy is facing a problem with API automation testing, and then the other engine figures out how subtly we can promote or how subtly we can solve their problem. Is it recommending Codex.ai, or is it just talking about uh, something about API automation testing, maybe not talk about Codex.ai at all. This way, we are basically building the whole cohorts of content on the Reddit, on Twitter, and of course, this will take time to mature and give you the real output. But once it will start giving, I think it would be a huge advantage to us.
I love it. What else? And talk to us about what growth you're expecting in 2025 as well. Talk to us about how you've built this, because you just started this and you came out of the gates so hard, and I'm so excited by what you're building. But talk to us about growth so far so that other founders in the early stage will realize that they can relate to what you're building, and then talk about what your plans are for 2025.
So our plans are for 2025. It's pretty much straightforward. We want to reach out to $1 million in ARR straight, nothing else. And we have worked this from a bottom to top approach. How many calls which we need to do on a daily basis in order to reach? I remember we discussing about in length about this. And I guess the whole company, everyone who talks about Codex.ai on a daily call or weekly call or monthly call, everyone talks about how from a bottom to top approach we can achieve $1 million in ARR by December 2025. How many calls we need to do, how many LinkedIn outreach we need to do, how many emails outreach we need to do on a daily basis. And that's what motivates us. Let's say our LinkedIn message response is 25% currently, out of which 8% is positive and remaining is negative. How can we optimize that 8% to 9% so that we don't have to do 1,000 calls, maybe 800 calls would work. So things like that, we keep on optimizing it. Of course, we are a bit early on that, but I think from January it would be a very huge roller coaster ride in terms of revenue.
I love it. And then that would be increasing your revenue from the monthly revenue. Where is it at today?
So it's around $10,000 currently, and we would
And
be increasing it to $100,000 in
and,
MRR by
and you
December.
built it from nothing to $10,000 a month this year. And so this is so powerful, everyone. Look, listen to what you're hearing here. And if you're an investor, you should be licking your lips. You are not hearing a founder talking about how much money they can raise, how they can buy customers. You're talking about a founder speaking about a bottom up approach of how many people they outreach to and how that ties into very strong metrics to help make sure that they're successful. Very, very, very powerful. And how do you make sure that your team are going to hit these numbers? Because this is really where the rubber meets the road. Like how are you planning to come into 2025 to put yourself in a place of success?
So we don't see 1 million as our that is a final goal. But to achieve that goal, we have to work on a weekly objective or monthly objectives. So the team or me or anyone I talk to, we don't talk about final goal of $1 million. We talk about how we can go from 10K to 20K within 2 months or 3 months. Okay, how what's your efficiency rate in terms of LinkedIn? What's your efficiency rate in terms of email outreach? How can we scale that up, maybe 2x 3x email outreach with by not but not damaging the reputation of domain. So all those things we work on the micro level, not on the macro level. Once you have micro level settled down, I think the macro level would itself take care of.
I love it. And just in the last couple of minutes here, like the beautiful thing about the show here is like we covered how to build your domain dominance next year. So everyone sees you as the one who owns the space. And then you've spoken about how to use AI and automation and properly create an environment where you're able to grow using maximum efficiency and minimum effort, right? While you focus all of your effort on the product itself. You also spoke about how to build a bottom up approach to be successful in the company. Finish us off with I want to talk about your transformative statement. Like finish us off with firstly, how can people contact you, especially investors that want to be able to get in touch with you? But then also, how can what is your company going to be in 3, 5, 10 years time? And this could be like your BHAG, your big hairy audacious goal, or it could be your transformative impact. Like what is the machine that you're building here?
So we have internally talked about this a lot, and in fact, I remember talking to you, Ashutosh, and everyone. So we have iterated a lot, and we have came to a single line that developers only need to code in future. They don't need to do anything at all, neither testing nor solving bugs, nor solving support tickets, not doing any peripheral work at all. Everything will be covered with Codex.AI. They just have to work on building the architecture of the system, building the skilled system. They don't have to worry about anything at all.
And what I love about that is the simplicity of it. I always liked, Google's BHAG, their big hairy audacious goal, where they just want to catalog every single piece of the world's information, like how huge, but how simple. And I love how you're building out a world where developers will never even to look at these things. It all happens underneath the water, on top of the water. They just go and they build out the beautiful things that they can build. And considering the entire world is being built on code, that means that you become the safety net for all code being built for the
True,
whole world,
true.
which is a beautiful thing. Sidon, how can people connect with you?
So you can directly reach out to me via email siddhant at codex.ai, or very easy, you just go to codex.ai and book a demo. That's my personal calendar link. Every demo that comes to codex.ai, that comes to my calendar first, and then depending upon the customers, we direct it towards anyone else.
Wonderful. And just spell that for everybody so they have it.
SIDDHANT at codex.ai, QODEX.ai.
Beautiful. Okay, my friend, it has been wonderful. You're building a unicorn. We couldn't be happier that we're invested. We're going to build this sucker together. I love, love, love how you think. I love how you're focusing on growth. And anybody who's betting against you hitting $1 million in revenue next year is a fool, because it's going to happen. So, congrats on everything you've built. Congrats on all your success, making the product better and better and better. And it's going to be a beautiful 12 months that we have ahead of us.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you so much for all the advice, mentorship you guys are giving. That's very much helpful for us.
Always, my friend. Okay, that's a wrap, and I will let our producer close down the show. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining.